Hello and welcome to The Federal. Today we are talking to Mr. Prafulla Ketkar, editor of the Organiser Weekly. Welcome to The Federal, Mr. Ketkar. So my first question to you is, recently Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath publicly said that just like Bhagwan Krishna asked for 5 villages, Hindus will only want 3, Ayodhya, Mathura and Kashi. Do you agree with this statement and what are your thoughts?
See, if we, Gyan, if we see historically, right from 1940s, that has been the stated position of most of the Hindu organizations. In 1980s, when the Ram Janmabhoomi movement was revived, then also in one of the negotiations that were happening with the intervention from the Prime Minister's office, Swami Chinmanands, on behalf of the Dharma Sansad, had literally begged and requested on one of the Fridays after the Jummah namaz, that is the auspicious namaz that is considered on Friday, that generally people after offering namaz, they generally do not reject if somebody asks something. And he said, if you give this 3, we will forget 30,000. Why these 3? Simply because they are very symbolic when it comes to the idea of civilizational idea of Bharat. So they are the places of sacredness for all Indians. And 2, that would actually create a sense of confidence and harmony, because in a way we will recognize that there is some kind of dialogue and reconciliation possible about the civilizational injustice that is done by the invaders. In fact, in one of the conversations, first time one of the prominent archaeologists in Ayodhya case also, with Mr. Lal, KK Muhammad was there, and KK Muhammad first time in fact told me in one of the interviews that Muslim side was almost reconciled to the position that okay, these are 3 important positions, and as far as Ram Janmabhoomi is concerned, it can be given back. But it is the some of the politicians and some of the communist historians who actually misguided them, and since then the issue became complicated. My simple understanding is, if you ask me as a student of Indian civilization, as a journalist, I personally feel that we need to take a very simple position as far as these complicated issues are concerned. Whenever we talk about the caste, we always talk about the some kind of discrimination or caste-based injustice that is being done to, and we always talk about the remedial measures. Reservation is just one of them, but there are many for positive discrimination. Why? Because we want to ensure we want to ensure social justice. Similarly, when it comes to the religious issue, I personally feel that just because of our intellectual confusion, we allowed, and that is mainly because of the either British colonial historians or the communist historians, we allowed Indian Muslims somehow to associate themselves with people like Babur or Aurangzeb or Gauri. And I personally feel they are not the real descendants of these invaders. In fact, they were their ancestors were the first victims of those invasions. But historically, we never stated this fact. We always tell caste-based communities that you made certain discrimination or your ancestors made certain discrimination. But we forget to tell that there was certain civilizational injustice that was done by these invaders. So please don't associate with them. Anyways, whether Arabs, whether Turks, whether Mongols, they never considered Indian Muslims to be true followers of Islam. So they always consider them, even in Pakistan, they never considered it. They always considered them mujahids. And even Pakistani Muslims are not considered by Arabs as the true followers of Islam. So, and that's why we see unique features in South Asia, like, Dargah worship, which is un-Islamic, music, which is un-Islamic, even the belief in, customs related to rebirth, or some kind of salutations to your ancestors in the form of Shrad. All these practices are followed by Indian Muslims to a large extent, simply because of their Hindu roots. Now, the moment we accept this, why these three places? These three places amicably resolved and restored would lead to some kind of confidence building and ensuring civilizational justice, so that the problem with the existing generations would not carry the load of past injustices. And that's why, I think this talk about the three places. That is my understanding.
Fair enough. So just like there are disputed sites in Mathura and Kashi, there are disputed sites in Bhotshala, Qutub Minar, Char Minar, or even Taj Mahal. Can there be a permanent solution? And how will political leaders or religious leaders ensure that people only agree to these three and not the other places?
See, as I said, if we come to the first two important conjunctures and accept the fact that, one, Indian Muslims have no connection whatsoever as far as the Arab, Turk, or Mongol invaders are concerned. Their ancestral roots are very much Hindu by culture and Indian by nationality. The moment we accept this and we come out of this, some kind of euphoria about pan-Islamism and global ummah kind of thing, then it becomes easier to some kind of dialogue. And that dialogue perhaps would lead to, my understanding is for these three important places, because whether Babur or Aurangzeb did not target these three particular places or many other places just to hurt some individual Hindu faith. No, it was an ideology. It was an ideology of iconoclasm. If you don't follow my path, you have no right to exist. That was that ideology. And that is un-Indian. That ideology is un-Indian. We are the people who believed in Ekam Sat Vipra Baudha Vadanti. There can be multiple ways to reach to the same truth. And therefore, if you are following the path of in search of Allah, it doesn't make much difference. Or only if you accept that there can be different paths to reach to the same kind of truth or God or some form of ultimate, whether you believe in some form, the saguna or nirguna, that is the formless. It doesn't make much difference whether you believe in Dvaita or Advaita, whether you believe in Shaiva or Vaishnava, or, this is the only land where, Dayanand could dare to write Allopanishad. So Upanishad also had, based on Quran. So that is the beauty of this land, that we have practiced spiritual democracy. We don't practice just political democracy or economic democracy. We have given the right to choose your own God, your own path, and even given the right to reject the idea of God. Even atheists are considered as rishis. So we need to, learn this. And that has been the beauty of Indian concept of, or idea of Bharat, I believe, which teaches the fundamental concept of coexistence. So there can be multiple ways, there can be multiple languages, there can be multiple gods, and still there is inherent unity, and there is a fundamental truth which everybody believes. So I think this some kind of reconciliation about these three places would pave the way for this kind of common understanding. And then I think politically, it will not be very beneficial to mobilize people on the basis of religious identity related to particular places. Then the political capital will go away. Intellectually, we will be, and culturally, we will be more open. And then we can decide whether, really we need to think about Taj Mahal or investigate about Taj Mahal, about the archaeological evidences, or what Kutubuddin Aibak has written about Qutub Minar and what was the pre-existing structure, whether it was a giant structure, or and can they coexist, in what form they can coexist. It can be decided by local people and come to the mutually agreed solution. But it will definitely not be a national issue and politically driven issue. That's what I feel.
So do you think the union government should make an effort, since we are talking about process of reconciliation? Should the union government make an effort for an out-of-court settlement, especially in Mathura and Kashi? Because there have been made such attempts were made earlier also. So, or maybe the two communities can sit together and reach a solution. Why?
See, Gyan, what happened? This was possible. Again, my understanding of history says this was possible when Somnath was done.
Okay.
Immediately, if we would have done that as a process of decolonization, we removed the statues of King George, and nobody objected. No Christian said that, oh, no, he's our ancestor, or we are descendants of King George, and that's why that should be restored. Similarly, it could have been easily done. But unfortunately, we took a very fraudulent position on the idea of secularism, where denying the truth of history has become a fashion, intellectual fashion, to label yourself a secular. And that's why many attempts to either resolve these issues amicably, or because, see, please try and understand, like in case of Gyanvapi, from 1192, there is no single moment when Hindus have actually foregone their claim on the sacred place of Gyanvapi. Now, why? Because from Rameshwaram to Sharda Peeth, Kashi is Kashi. That sacred geography, the concept of sacred geography is the same. And that's why somebody, in case of Ayodhya, initially the Ramanandi Sampradaya was there, then Nirmohi Akhada came in, then Nihanga Sikh came in. So every time somebody, took up the baton and kept fighting for the cause. Now, after partition, it was easier to resolve it if there would have been a political will. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And in fact, our approach to history and our cultural issues complicated the matter. And that's why all the efforts made initially during the Rajiv Gandhi period, Dharma Samsad took some initiatives. In fact, the first Dharma Samsad was, presided over by Mr. Karan Singh, who was a Congress leader. The first person who actually raised this issue was a cultural minister in Uttar Pradesh called Daud Dayal Khanna, again a Congress person. Then whether Mr. Vishwanath Pratap Singh, or he was the first person who said, "Arey bhai, masjid hai kaha? This is already a temple." That's what Vishwanath Pratap Singh stand when the negotiation started. Chandrasekhar made, as a prime minister, very important initiative and effort. Mr. Narsiha Rao also, tried his best to, bring some kind of solution. But the Muslim party was so adamant by, and that's how this Babri Masjid Action Committee was formed. Before 1980s, there was no Babri Masjid Action Committee. There was no word even called Babri Masjid. Even the first FIR that was registered in case of Ayodhya in 1858, that calls that case, even the Mutallik, the caretaker of that particular structure, has registered the case as the Masjid-e-Janamsthan. Whose Janamsthan? Not Babar's Janamsthan for sure. So, if the registered case in the original code, Faizabad code, was Masjid-e-Janamsthan, then where did this idea, and nowhere in the world, in the Islamic world even, there is a mosque in the name of individual. It is un-Islamic. So this formation of Babri Masjid Action Committee with the support of certain Muslim political leaders, even some secular political leaders, so-called secular political leaders, and communist historians, in fact, complicated the matter. And I now feel that it's very difficult because now political tempers have gone up. People have formed certain opinions. Platforms like YouTube or even social media platforms have allowed and WhatsApp forwards have allowed people to take a very hardline position. So judicial intervention for amicable solution looks to be the best way, because remember, initially when the dispute started and politically it got a traction, original political position was taken by the Nehru and Nehruvian secularism that we should not rake up these issues. Whatever is bygone is bygone. Okay. Then the thing came. Okay, that if the things are proved, then we will consider. Then now you see, as happened in case of Gyanvapi, most of the arguments that are made are not about the original claim about the mosque. Now the entire argument is about the Places of Worship Act, and therefore there should not be any excavation. We don't want any scientific evidences to be looked for. Please understand, this is not a battle for just a temple. There are many Shiva temples. There is a battle going on to decide what is the character of Indian nationhood. Whether civilizationally we have been a nation and what we started after 1947 is the new state formation, or we are, as British told us, we are nation in the making. That problematic proposition, can be resolved constitutionally with the judicial intervention. And I think in case of Gyanvapi, as the ASI report has come, because in Ayodhya case also, the 2003 ASI report turned out to be a very critical evidence when Allahabad High Court reached to the logical conclusion. I personally feel that now we should make up our mind and decide if the evidences prove, if legally, because it also allows us to take a very informed kind of opinion. Both the sides have a right to present their side to an impartial judiciary, and on the basis of documents, we can reach to some logical conclusion. So I personally feel at this juncture that out of court settlement, but if Muslim party takes the initiative, accepts that, there may be some historical injustice done, we have nothing to do with, and anyways, if certain murtis and certain, certain form of, gods are there, then anyway we cannot perform namaz as far as the Islamic rule is concerned. So we will anyway not perform our namaz there. So if they take, it would be a very, very high gesture, and I think it would lead to a kind of example that world will see. But whether Muslim leadership would show that kind of maturity, and some secular leaders would allow them to show that kind of maturity. This vote bank politics actually has made all these complications. Otherwise, at the local level, everybody knows what is the truth.
Sir, since you talked about Places of Worship Act, do you think the time is right for the union government to amend the Places of Worship Act, or will it happen in the third term of this government?
I frankly, I don't know, but I know for sure that in the court now, Places of Worship Act is being challenged, and Supreme Court is very serious about hearing this. it was a very unjust kind of provision. And logically and judicially, I think it is untenable simply because somebody just tell me, and that is what happened in the Ganwapi case. When it came to the Supreme Court simply said, okay, if you want to invoke Places of Worship Act, no problem. But even to invoke Places of Worship Act, we need to decide the character of the place of worship on 15th of August 1947. So if you are taking this, and the fundamental principle of law or rule of law is your your legal provisions cannot be applied to the previous cases. Now you are making a law, you are passing a law in 1990s for the cases that were registered in 1858 or 1915 or 1927, and then you are saying now it is applicable on the past cases. It is unconstitutional, simply unconstitutional. So I don't think Places of Worship Act would sustain in this way. But let us have it, and maybe a political mandate is there in 2024 general elections. Then perhaps we can see a political will. But I don't think that would require, because the way things are going on in the courts, court will definitely constitutionally assess the constitutional validity of the act, and will take it to the logical conclusion.
So my last question to you is, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently met religious leaders of different community, and he has met several leaders in the past as well. Do you think such initiatives will help bridge the gap or end the doubt between communities? Because such efforts have been made earlier also.
Oh, certainly. And please remember, this is not just about, he recently meeting certain leaders. There has been sustained efforts, not just from the government side or political side, even from the RSS side. I know for sure, whether Imam Ilyasi, he's president of the Imam Council. He was invited to Ayodhya. He came over. He faced the fatwa, and he still said, I am happy that I'm joining this. There have been, various kinds of dialogues. In fact, the first person in the post-independent India who wrote on RSS first academic book, and I know because he has written in Organiser, and his book was reviewed in Organiser, was a pastor or father from Kerala called Anthony Elingemettam. And he said, as far as the Gandhi's Hindu Swaraj is concerned, RSS is carrying forward the true legacy of Hindu Swaraj. That is his thesis. And he has written an entire book in 1951 on this. And interestingly, if I'm not wrong, Lal Krishna Advani ji, as a sub-editor in Organiser, had reviewed it. Again, for the benefit of viewers, Anthony Elingemettam is calling Nehru's policy on secularism as pseudo-secularism. Which became a popular coinage in 1980s when Advani ji started his Rath Yatra. So there was always a possibility of dialogue, and in Indian context, in the Hindu tradition, Shastrarth or debate or dialogue has been the only way. We never considered sword as the way. We never considered imposition of one views on others as the way. We don't follow the tradition of tolerance. We don't tolerate each other. We accept and respect. So I think I see this as because we cannot allow, for the political considerations or because of some vested interest, we cannot allow certain people to create rift in our society. And therefore, I feel that such interactions are important because it enhances understanding. It also allows us to understand each other's customs, have a dialogue on the historical conditions and the way relationships have evolved in Indian society among various communities. So, as I said, realizing that inherent unity about idea of Bharat and still celebrating diversity. That is the beauty of Bharat. So, dialogue and deliberation is the only way to make that realize and understand each other better in the present context.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with the Federal, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.